Hey folks, it's Ray with Taste Radio. Right now, I am honored to be sitting down with Ria Soler, who is the Director of Education and Global Advocacy for Tequila Komos. Ria, great to see you.
I am thrilled to be here with you in the beautiful Bahamas.
Yeah, you look so relaxed. I don't know if that's from me or just being here at the Atlantis.
To be fair, I got in on Monday, so
wow.
I've been here for a couple days, so it's definitely sunk in, the Bahamas.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been here on Monday. I got here yesterday, actually.
Are you going to stay through the whole week?
Well, up until the weekend, yeah. So
Okay.
I'll be here for most of the events. I think I'm missing the brunch on Sunday,
all
which I
right.
heard is really cool.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Well, if you don't get on the water slide, you're doing yourself a disservice.
I have to get on the water slide.
You have to get on the water slide.
I'm not really a water slide kind of guy, but is it big?
It's huge, and
Okay.
it goes through a shark tank, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's completely exposed to the elements on a Mayan temple. It's like insanity.
Wow.
I'm saying that, but I haven't done it.
Okay.
But you should.
I'm considering it now.
Yeah.
I'm worried about lines. I'm not really a line guy.
I totally agree with you, which is why I think I'm going to go at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay, as soon as it opens. Good
Yeah,
call.
so
Good call.
I'll meet you there.
I don't. You may see me there actually. I don't have any interviews tomorrow morning, but I was just saying we're here in our little media and influencer space that they've given us, and it's quite empty. Even though there's some background noise, that's just the music playing here at the Atlantis, and it is a gorgeous day outside, and I'm sure everyone's enjoying the pool, water slide, and beach right now.
Yeah, everybody but you is outside.
And you as well.
But that's because I wanted to speak with you. So as
Thank
soon
you.
as we're done talking, I'm going to go back outside.
Well done. Well
Okay.
done. That's why I said I was honored, because you could be doing something else with your time right now. But you did bring me some tequila, which I am also extremely grateful for. And we have a couple glasses here.
That's right, wine glasses.
Some serious pours, by the way. What do we have here?
They are friendly. Yes, friendly pours at 11 a.m. So this is two expressions of Tequila Komos that are here at the Atlantis, which is great. They are our Reposado Rosa
Which I
and
have.
our first SKU, our first baby, the Añejo Cristalino. So these are both aged in wine barrels, which is why I love to serve them in wine glasses. We aerate the tequilas before they go into bottle, which actually blows off a lot of the ethanol and heat, so you're able to nose these like a wine and not get that kind of blowback of, heat.
Typically,
and
you
alcohol.
don't want to do that.
No, typically you do not. You do not. But aged in wine barrels and with that aeration, they're really nice and soft. They're meant exactly for where we're at right now. They're meant to be drunk in beautiful places with sunshine. So.
Consumed.
Consumed. Yes, absolutely. Consumed responsibly,
Yes.
even. Sipped responsibly.
Well, I would like to sip mine right now.
Yeah, cheers.
It is beautiful. I have the Rosa.
You do.
And it almost looks like an orange wine. That's the color. It's very light, and there are hints of pink and orange and maybe purple, maybe a little bit of violet.
Yeah, it's that beautiful kind of salmon color that you'd find in like a Provençal rosé or an orange wine, as you say. And it's completely natural. It comes from red wine grape skins. We don't do any artificial coloring agents. So from batch to batch on the Rosa, the color actually changes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just like a vintage of wine would. Cheers, by the way.
Cheers. Whew, that is beautiful.
Yeah, it's still good. That's what I say when I sip it. Don't worry, it's still good.
Yeah.
2 months in red wine barrels. So the Rosa that you're having. So Cabernet, Merlot, but, things as far-flung as Mourvedre, Cab Franc. We're really trying to blend in a lot of complexity, a little bit of tannin from those red wine barrels, but some of that dark fruit, dark chocolate characteristic that you're going to get with fresh, hopefully you taste that fresh agave as well, because only 2 months in those barrels.
I got to make a confession. I just got into tequila. So, I was never a big tequila drinker.
Okay.
And I have a good friend who has been on my case and saying, Ray, you got to try tequila. You got to educate yourself about tequila and really make sure that you're tasting as much as you can. Because there's a lot of tequila out there. And over the past, I'd say 5 years, there's been an explosion of tequila brands that have come to market. And I have come to really appreciate tequila in a way that I never thought I would. But the more I drink tequila neat, and the more varieties I try, and the more I immerse myself in the backgrounds of how they were made, it's just such a beautiful story, and it's a beautiful expression of a plant. And as the Director of Education and Advocacy for Tequila Komos, I imagine that's what you talk about often, and pretty much all the time. But let's back up for a second, because when I see the name of the brand, I immediately think, is it Greek?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So talk about the origins of Tequila Komos and how it came to market.
Yeah. So first of all, welcome to the party.
I am thoroughly enjoying this party, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Tequila is such a special category, and I think for so many people, there was a moment, be it early days in college or mid-20s or what have you, where maybe you went out and had a party night and you drank bad tequila. You had shots, you did limes and salts, and you were turned off of tequila as a category because you had not very good tequila, right?
Yes.
And tequila is, in the way of wine, a really incredible agricultural product that expresses terroir in a specific way that a lot of other spirits do not. And when it's handled with care, when the base product, the agaves, are grown correctly, and then put into beautiful barrels, as we do, you get something really, really special. And I think it takes a minute to convince people to come back to tequila. But when you're in here, you don't leave. Komos. How did we get here? Komos is a Greek name. As a matter of fact, Komos was the cup bearer to the god Dionysus. Dionysus being the god of wine and revelry, and Komos, we age in wine barrels. So we have that kind of Mediterranean winemaking influence, hence the name Komos. It actually means in ancient Greek to throw a party, to revel.
Okay.
And
Well, this
so-
all makes sense now.
Yeah, we don't take ourselves too seriously. I'm sure you can tell I don't take myself too seriously. It's tequila. We should be having fun.
Sure.
And so that's how the name came about. And then, of course, the brand itself is the brain baby of Richard Betts, who is a master sommelier, winemaker. He made a straw tequila, sombra mezcal before this, and speaking to the audience that we are, when you have that proven track record of brands that are successful enough that they sell, right, and you continue to kind of innovate, you have the market behind you to support something new. So I don't think just anybody could have come out and said, hey, let's age tequila in wine barrels and see what happens. But when you have somebody who's got a proven track record of creating innovative brands and selling them, right, and says, I want to do this special product and project, investors say yes. Distilleries say yes. Winemakers that he has relationships with say yes, you can have these beautiful barrels. And so that's how we got here.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. How much of your portfolio is aged in wine barrels? Is it all the tequilas?
All of them.
So I have seen so many tequilas over the past 3-4 years that are marketed as being aged in wine barrels, but it feels like you guys were the originator, at least the first brand to really put that out there.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
The way Ria, it was a very sly but slightly frustrated look on your face.
No, here's something I say about tequila a lot, and in particular celebrity tequila. I truly believe that a rising tide lifts all ships, and the more visibility on the world of tequila and well-made tequila, right? People, consumers, just even considering tequila. Thank you, The Rock. Thank you, Clooney. Whatever. Then they come into the category, and I think the way most consumers do, they start to explore and they start to find that they want to trade up. They want something that is very well made. So I love the fact that, let's say, can I say Diageo? I worked for them before. Am I allowed to say Diageo? Sure.
You can say anything you want.
Okay, like the
Yes.
Diageo, the Don Julio Rosado. That was a direct response to our Reposado Rosa. We were the first to market ultra luxury rosé tequila, full stop. So when we see the big players like Diageo taking notice of what we do and creating innovation as a direct competition to our tiny little brand, we love it because it means they're paying attention and it means that we're doing something right.
You had to do a lot of the heavy lifting, though, getting people to understand why this is something they should be paying for, why this is something they should be interested in. How does that happen? Because as for someone in your position, this is your position. This is your job, to educate people as to the nuances of your tequila versus those that are currently on the market.
I'm really busy. I've been really busy for over 4 years. It does require a good amount of communication and education, but people love that.
Mm-hmm.
If you give it to them in a way that is that it's open and not pedantic, and give them touch points that they can understand. I think people are always excited about what's new and what's next and what's good, because if these were just innovative but they weren't delicious, we wouldn't be sitting here. They are delicious, and that is really a testament to Richard and his palate. He was the 9th person in the world to pass the Master Sommelier certification in one go. More people have walked on the moon. It's a crazy statistic.
I'm going to use a phrase here that I'm going to get pinged for internally. It's an internal joke, inside joke here. When you said talk to people about your brand and spend a lot of time talking about Komos, who are those people?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we've got to look at segmentation here. And in prior roles that I've had, I would say it was about 80% trade comms, 20% consumer. I would say I'm pretty evenly split between consumer and trade now. And of course, when I'm talking trade, I'm also talking about our distributor network, because they are our number one customer, right? Mm-hmm. So in the trade, it's not just, to bartenders. A lot of my communication to consumers is going to take place where Komos lives. And so that is beautiful resorts, high-end hotels. I do a lot of fine dining collaborations with chefs. That's why I'm here tonight. I'm hosting a dinner with Bobby Flay, which is really fun. A lot of country clubs, members clubs, where they're curious about, the beautiful bottles that are on their bar. That's where I do a lot of my communication to consumer.
The bartenders are on the front lines.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are going to recommend a particular tequila. Certainly consumers, yes, they'll look at back bar and say, hey, what's that? I think that's how aviation really became the brand that it is today, because people saw it in the back bar and they're like, what is that? That looks interesting.
Yeah. Also, Brooke Arthur. Shout out to Brooke Arthur. She crushed it on aviation.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Talk about a remarkable brand.
Yeah.
What's resonating with bartenders? What's getting them excited about your brand? I think this is an important question for anyone that's listening, because whether you're selling tequila, you're selling soda, you're selling snacks, the people that are going to help you, the people are going to help amplify what you're doing, the people that are going to advocate for you are those.
They're the front line.
They're the bartenders, the merchandisers, the buyers, the cashiers in some cases.
Yeah.
So how are you getting them excited about the brand?
That's a great question. Authenticity. I think bartenders they're really good at reading people because they have to. That's their job. They need to see if somebody needs to be cut off or is being a jerk, or, they're 4 deep at the bar and they see a regular that they know treats them well. They are good bull crap meters. I don't know if we curse on this.
I said you can say whatever you want.
Okay, they're good bullshit meters, right?
Oh my goodness, Ria. Now I have to spend a half a day cutting that out of the podcast.
I'm sorry. I've got a potty mouth. But they are. And so if you come to them with your brand story and it doesn't resonate for you, it's not going to resonate for them. So you need to come with authenticity and openness. You've got to listen to what their needs are. You've got to hear what the end users, experience is, how their consumers are responding. Take that feedback in, and then you've got to come at them with the truth, I think. And so, the truth of this brand is that we are a very sustainable brand. We give back to the community that we come from. We just won the Waste Reduction of the Year award for the entire Global Spirits Network for what we do with our brick project in tequila. And so I think when you arm the bartenders with that kind of knowledge where they feel good about what they're selling, in addition to the fact that, yes, it's beautiful, it's delicious, it's high-end, it's going to increase their check average. Who doesn't want to hear that, right? They're going to make more money. It gives them an anchor to kind of feel good about selling what they're selling. In addition, I will say we all know that people are drinking less, right? It's just a fact. So if somebody is going to have 1 instead of 2, why not make that 1 be at an elevated price point, at a perhaps elevated luxury cocktail level, right? Where it's very experiential, it's very special for that customer, and it is the price of 2 drinks that might have come out of the well.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. If you're going to drink less, drink better.
Yeah.
Is what I've been hearing quite a bit from folks in the industry. I think a challenge might be looking at the legacy brands that have been there and then the ones that are coming up. And people love trying new things, and people love experimenting with their spirits and cocktails.
Mm-hmm.
But loyalty has got to be such an important part of what you do. How do
Yeah.
you encourage? How do you get people to look at Komos as my brand?
Yeah, I would say it is a strategy of organic adoption. I tell people we're quiet luxury. I have these conversations one-on-one. I say, now you know me, right? Now
Yep.
you know Komos. Like we know one another, and it is inevitable. I spent the past 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, with my distributor here, Bristol. Great people. I've never been to the Bahamas before, right? And I said, listen, we're going to take these bottles out at our meetings, and we're going to have people come up to us that we don't know, and they're going to say how much they love this brand. Like, it's a shock. Like, oh my God, you have Komos? Sure enough, 2 first accounts. We were at the Ocean Club Four Seasons, and then we were at this gorgeous restaurant called Oya. People said, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you have Komos.
Yeah.
That's my favorite tequila. Why is that here? How do you know it? And then I get to give back to them. Oh my gosh, you're part of this. I hesitate to say family, because family is such a fraught and laden word.
Sure.
Community, you're part of this, special group that knows the brand, and that organic adoption is so hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have marketing budget. We don't have celebrities. I like to joke that Kevin Hart isn't hiding behind her bottle.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry, Kevin Hart. It's such a terrible joke.
It's well, he is involved with a rival tequila
I know.
brand.
That's why
yes, that is that has pretty good distribution, and
It
I
does.
think Tequila Komos has pretty good distribution too. But I don't want to call it preciousness of its distribution, but maybe that's part of it. Maybe the fact that people can't necessarily find it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the fact that it is something that you're surprised to see in a
Yeah.
good way
Yeah.
has helped the brand. I can think of another brand that it's the. I don't want to mention it, but maybe I should mention it.
Yeah.
Fortaleza.
Of course, when I see Fortaleza, I'm like, you got Fortaleza?
Exactly.
Hell yeah. That means you guys know your stuff. That means
Right.
you care about how this is produced. That means that you've got a relationship, because not everybody can get that allocation. Do you want to hear the craziest flex?
I would love to.
And you guys can cut this out
We're
if it's
gonna
not
cut it, 'cause
germane to the
when
conversation.
when you lead with something like that, we can't cut it. We
Okay.
can't-
All right. So I was, Hawaii is a great market for us. And I was on the Big Island, Hawaii, and went to the Rosewood there. And just the barefoot bar on the beach, I said, they didn't have Komos yet. We were selling it. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'll have a margarita. I've had enough Mai Tais. I said, what's in your well? And he said, Fortaleza.
Oh, my goodness.
I said, what are you even saying to me? And the guy's name, I shit you not, his name was Brody. Brody was like, I don't know, man. They just give us all Fortaleza.
Wow.
What a
Wow.
flex. What a flex, Rosewood.
Maybe.
Big Island.
I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say, because that.
I know.
Maybe you just gave out the secret of all secrets right now. Maybe people.
We all need to get to the Big Island
guess
and
so.
steal their allocations.
Yeah. But no, getting back to Komos, because I think that your story about how people have come up to your table and said, hey, oh my gosh, you have this. This is my favorite tequila. Making something a bit more of a story, a sort of
Yeah.
a mystery
Yeah.
is kind of important as well.
Well, think about what Orange Swift did. I mean, let's talk,
Sure.
since it's sideways, it's
Yep.
related. Orange Swift made themselves into a cult, if you can find it.
Right.
They turned their sour grapes and made great wine out of it by the problems that they had, with ownership and not being able to release their wine for a while. I think, what is it, 7 years in the desert or whatever. Then that became a cult of, oh, if you can find it, oh my gosh,
Right.
And so I think if you can take that story of we're small and make it a positive instead of a negative.
Yeah.
I worked for Chartreuse for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
So
Talk about precious.
I'm pretty good at telling people, I'm glad you love it, but I only have this many.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do think that there is something you do have to be precious a little bit about it. And that's not like precious, like precocious, or like you don't want to share it with people. Of course, everybody should drink Komos. It's
Right.
meant, it literally means to party. We do not take ourselves seriously, right? But letting people know that we think it's special, I think makes them realize and feel like it's special too when they drink it.
We're here at the Atlantis Nassau Wine and Food Festival, and I'm in a room. There's a big sign over there. I think it says media and influencer room.
I know.
I'm a person of the media. I might be somewhat influential. I have a few followers on
Okay.
the grams and whatnot, but I'm not an influencer in the typical sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, it can be a tough time for brands and how they interact
Ooh,
with that community.
yeah,
It's important, but I think there's a lot of unknowns, and
yeah,
you can spend money and resources in a lot of different ways that doesn't help
yeah.
you in any kind of way. But getting people to talk about Komos and maybe where it's distributed and where it's seen and the precious nature of it, or maybe help educate people about the fact that it is aged in wine barrels, all that's really important, and disseminating that information. When it comes to that group of folks, what's your strategy?
It's a double-edged sword, right? You
Yeah.
kind of have to at this point.
Sure.
It's a necessary. I don't want to say necessary evil because there are some influencers who do phenomenal jobs and really really care about what they do. And then I've seen some influencer content where an influencer will have Don Julio one day and then they'll have Avion the next day and then they've got a face cream and it's like, what is how is this germane to
Right.
what we do?
Whatever pops up in the mail, they'll just post
Exactly.
on
Whatever's
their,
going to
yeah.
pay the bills. And I
Yeah.
get it. We all got to get paid. But, like, is that really the person that you want to be advocating for your brand? We have done influencer content. I think sometimes it really works. Like, okay, so the most viral thing that happened is Taylor Swift was drinking a Rosa cocktail at Spago, and the press saw it, and that you can't pay money for that.
Sure.
Taylor Swift. So if things happen organically within that space, it's amazing, and when they're paid for, they sometimes work and sometimes don't. I think it's a challenging sphere to be in. I'm certainly not an influencer. I like to think that I'm influencing the people that I talk to when I'm in front of them, but it's me and my 3,000 followers on Instagram aren't influencing.
Yeah, but you have an important role as the director of education.
Yeah.
Can you educate? Can you influence the influencer? What's your strategy for doing so?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really comes back to making sure that if we are working with influencers, that they are approaching the brand from a very authentic way, that they understand our brand DNA, and that their DNA of whomever they are in that influencer space works within what we do. We've had some crazy placements as far as into TVs and movies. We were this past season the White Lotus, which is great. I think that really resonates with kind of who we are. We were also on the Real Housewives, which is the other side of that coin. So
Okay.
I don't know. I guess what I do really so much is focus on trade, how they see the brand, and then really making sure that consumers have a personal touch point. So within that social media space, I leave that mostly to the social media team,
Okay.
and they do a great job.
But do you have any, I guess, when you see something that may not necessarily align with your role and
Sure.
your focus on education, you're saying this is just totally, and this may not have ever happened, but so you might see something that says this is not in line with what we want
Yeah.
to do and how we educate people about Komos. What kind of conversations happen then?
I think we're still at the point as a brand where all press is good press.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we aren't to a space yet where I've wanted to walk back and say, hey, I don't want to be associated with this person or that person, or that video on YouTube where they rated us and maybe they were cursing and being kind of kooky or whatever. Let's ask them to take that down. We kind of welcome the chatter because again we're still new enough that all is. It's all still relevant to us to move things forward. I could talk to you about my distribution network for like the next 5 days, but then when you get into that influencer world, it's challenging for me personally on a professional level to really reconcile all of those moving parts together. I really want my digital director here, Diana. I'm sure she's got a much better answer.
No, look, I think the two are so closely related.
Yeah.
And I think you answered the question quite well, actually, about press as being all good press. It's so difficult to generate awareness.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to generate excitement about a brand, especially one in the tequila category. Now, Komos is in the luxury end of things.
Yes.
But even then, I mean, this is a new luxury brand coming out every single day, and all of them
Yeah.
seemingly deep-pocketed brands. So I think you're right. As long as no one's, I don't know, I probably shouldn't say this, but holding a Glock and,
Yeah, exactly.
and dumping a bottle of
saying,
tequila
I
Komos in
hate
there.
kittens while holding guns and saying, but I love Komos.
Right.
Like, we don't want that. Everyone
As long
loves
as
kittens.
people aren't doing that. But yeah, going back to your job and talking to distributors, they are again in a very, very important part of that sales chain. It's actually, and people may not know this, correct me if I'm wrong, it's very, very difficult to get out of a distributor relationship in this business. And that means it's really incumbent upon you and your team to find the right people to align with. And I was talking with Tony Aboganum just before you and I hopped on the mics, and the last thing he said was relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships. How do you vet a potential partner such that you have faith that the relationship will be a good one going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say that we are very fortunate in our partnership with Gallo. So we still own the brand, but Gallo owns the rights to our distribution in the U.S. This happened, about 2 years ago, so really early on for our brand. I mean, the amount of focus that was on Komos just early days to get that kind of investment from Gallo was really impressive. And that actually, you said it's hard to get out of distributor relationships. It is, but part and parcel of that agreement was that we swapped over to Gallo's distribution network nationwide. So that meant sometimes we didn't have to change distributors. That meant sometimes we were leaving distributors we absolutely loved and had done such a phenomenal job of building the brand up over the past 2 years and to make new partnerships. So there's definitely been some challenges right in the past 2 years getting to know a new distribution network and also being part of a portfolio approach versus a single brand approach. There's also huge benefits to it, a better, sales force, so much more focus when we are on focus with the distributor because we're such a large chunk of their portfolio now being part of Gallo. But those relationships, as Tony was talking about, are absolutely vital, and we are in the business of people. I had a boss who used to say to me, like, this is a people business, otherwise it's just booze in a bottle. Anybody can have booze in a bottle, Ria. Like, how do you as a person, right, personify that brand and bring it to life in a way for your partners that they feel good about selling and they feel motivated to do? So developing those relationships also with Gallo, right? And the Gallo team and our distributor team over the past 2 years has been a large part of my job. And we are such an interesting industry because, yes, we're B2B within our distributor network, but that's also a B2C relationship. And so you've got to manage the business aspect of it of saying, hey, you got to hit your goals. You need what incentive do you need? You don't have enough inventory on the floor. Like all of these things where they are our fulfillment agency, but on the other hand, they're also our customers. So how do you make them feel good about the brand? And when they could look at their entire book, say, you know what, today I'm going to go out, I'm going to talk about Komos.
Right.
And that has to be done on a personal level. It does.
Yeah.
I love, one of my favorite things to do in this job is to go and ride along with somebody, a rep I might never see again, because I get to see what their challenges are on the ground, spend a day in their shoes, see what their customers are honestly talking about. And that kind of insight from my distributor partner, maybe it's a junior rep that started 6 months ago. They've never been in this role before. To be able to connect with them and their customers over a day, it gives me insight into my business, and then it hopefully develops a relationship where they remember, that we spent a day together, and hopefully we had a good time, and I bought them a nice lunch.
They'll remember that.
Hopefully
sure.
Their car was clean.
Yeah.
That's not always the case.
Oh, jeez. That's embarrassing. I don't know why you would ever invite someone into your car if it wasn't clean. So.
Are you kidding me? Have you never done a ride along?
I mean, I've done, but again, I'm just.
Oh my gosh.
It's strange.
I have been in some filthy cars in my day.
No, it's not okay. Ria, I think in your job, one thing you do really, really well, and this is quite obvious to anyone who's listening, is communicating. You have developed a way of speaking to people and a way of talking about your brand that is very clear. Talk about how you've developed your ability to communicate and your method of communicating and connecting with folks that you need to talk to.
Thank you, first of all. That's very nice of you to say.
True.
No, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think first and foremost, I really like people.
Okay, that's important.
I do. I like to talk to people. I like to meet new people and hear where they come from. So I think the best part of talking is listening. Because if you really listen, then you can really speak. If you're just saying, and we've all been there, and I feel bad for these people. We've seen brand reps that are hosting dinners or, doing their spiel, and they have their script, and they stick to it. And sometimes that is not what your audience wants, and they feel disconnected, and you feel very branded, and it throws everything off, right? So you have to listen. You kind of have to feel the energy of the people that are around you in order to get what you need to get across.
Ria, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been so great. Such a fun, insightful conversation. I know our audience is going to love it.
Absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.